What up, YouTube? Hope you're all having a solid week. So today I wanted to do something that I haven't done in quite a while. I want to do a little bit of a tutorial, and specifically today I want to talk about how to fake a long exposure without using any ND filters or any special settings or anything like that. And so just to give you a little bit of backstory, earlier this week I went up to Niagara Falls, New York, which is right across the border from Niagara Falls, Canada. It's a super nice spot, awesome to take pictures, but I went there probably an hour and a half before sunset. I took a couple pictures of the falls, took a couple pictures of the people that were sightseeing there, and then as the sun started to come down, I realized that it was setting on the complete opposite side of the falls, which is where I wanted it to set. And so I decided I was going to try to do something a little bit more creative. Rather than just shooting at the falls with kind of a crappy sunset behind it, I pointed my camera in the opposite direction, and I noticed that, or I knew that there was this tower there that's kind of like a Space Needle type building, and I noticed that the clouds behind it were passing behind it, sort of from the left to the right, and I really wanted to do a long exposure of it, but there was way too much light in the sky. I didn't have nearly enough ND filters in order to make it a super long exposure, so what I did was I kind of cheated it, and I made a long exposure, and I took the photo from looking like this to looking like this with a couple simple steps that I'm going to show you today. So the first step you need to take in order to simulate this long exposure is to set your camera up to shoot an interval timer. So a lot of cameras will have an internal interval timer setting in there, where you can essentially set it up to take a shot every 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 seconds. So instead of taking a single super long exposure, what we're going to do is take multiple exposures over the course of 2 or 3 minutes and then blend them together in Photoshop at the end. So what I recommend is taking a photo every 1 to 2 seconds for something like 2 or 3 minutes. It really depends on how fast the clouds in your sky are moving or how fast the waterfall or whatever you're shooting is moving. That will really determine how many exposures you need to take. So in my case, the clouds were moving relatively fast, so I took a picture every 2 seconds for 2 minutes, and it equated out to, I believe, 59 exposures, and it worked out really well. I think that the picture came out looking really good, and so yeah, for clouds or something of that nature, I would recommend shooting for at least 2 minutes with an exposure every 1 to 2 seconds. And I almost forgot, you need to have your camera set on a tripod in order to pull this off. You're probably not going to be able to do it handheld just because little movements in your hand are going to throw the picture off and throw it all out of alignment. So yeah, you need to set it on your tripod prior to doing the interval timer. So now that we have your sequence of photos, the next thing we're going to do is import them into your computer. So as you can see here, and as I can see now that I have my glasses on, there are 59 photos in here. And so if I scroll here through here, you can see down at the bottom, there's 59 of them, all pointed in the exact same direction, sitting on a tripod, taken every 2 seconds for 2 minutes. And so if I go back up to the beginning and I click into this and then I start to tap through, you'll be able to see that the clouds were really slowly moving in the background. So every picture that I took, the clouds were slowly creeping over to the side. And so like I mentioned earlier, the goal here is going to be to take all of these photos and layer them on top of one another so that it looks like a super long exposure, even though I didn't have any ND filters or anything like that on my camera. And so the first thing that we want to do here is just make our color edits and things of that nature. So for the sake of time and for easiness, I am just going to apply one of my presets. So let me get into the develop module, and I'm going to go over here, and I really like my NYC sunset preset. I'm going to throw that on because I like the way the colors look there. Super easy, super simple. And now the next thing that we need to do is copy these settings across all of these photos. And so what I'm going to do is go back to library, and let me just say you can do whatever edit you want to do to the picture. I'm just using a preset for the sake of time today because I don't want to walk you through an entire editing process. But now that we're back into the library module, we go on top of that first one, and what you have to do is click on Command-Shift-C. And so it's going to open up the copy settings pane. And so you can see that I have all of my settings right now. Click down, I'm going to hit copy, and the next thing I'm going to do is highlight the rest of the pictures. So I'm going to highlight the other 58. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-V, and that's going to paste the settings across all of these photos. And so now you can click into any of the photos and it's got pretty much the same edit on it. You can see how all of them are changing. And so now the next thing we're going to do is export all of these images. So now that the pasting is completely done, I'm going to highlight all of them, right click, go to export, choose your destination. I'm choosing YouTube, which is for this video, of course. Hit export, and now we wait for it to export 59 files. It's gonna take a couple minutes, but I'll be back with you in just a minute. All right, so now that all of your files have been exported from Lightroom, you should see them in your File Explorer window. You can see that right here. I have all 59 of mine. They're all exported as JPEGs. And so the next step right now is gonna be to open up Photoshop. So pop open Photoshop, and we're not gonna do create new or open. What we're actually gonna do is we're gonna go into File, we're gonna go down to Scripts, and we're going to click on Load Files into Stack. And then from there, we're gonna click on Browse. We're gonna look for that same folder, and then we're gonna highlight everything in that folder, all of the pictures from your sequence. Shift click on all of them, click Open, and then what you're gonna do is click right here where it says Create Smart Object after loading layers. This is important. Then click OK, and it's gonna take it a good minute or so in order for this to load, but just wait it out, and I'll be back to you in a minute. Once it finishes loading, it's very simple and straightforward from here. What we're gonna do is go up to the top. We're gonna click on Layer. We are going to click on Smart Objects, which is right here. Then we're gonna go down to Stack Mode. We're gonna click on Mean. And again, it's gonna take us a good minute for it to load, so hold on a second. All right, guys, and that is literally it. So the next steps from here, go into File, click on Export, click Export As, and then it's gonna allow for you, let me drag it in so you can see it. It's gonna allow for you to choose your settings, however you wanna export it, as a JPEG, a PNG, what have you. You'll be able to export it and save it to wherever you want, and that is it. So as you saw, just through a couple simple steps and a little bit of a technique using your camera, I was able to take a photo from this to this, a very short exposure that looked completely normal. There wasn't really anything unique about it, to what looks like a 5 or 10 minute long exposure. It's a really cool technique, super simple to do, and I highly recommend trying it out to get a little bit more of a unique look in your photos. So if you learned something and you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps out me and the channel a ton. I appreciate it big time. And if you want to see more content from me, I make videos like this every single week. Hit that subscribe button down below. I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in my video next week. Peace. Ooh.